Welcome to the Jedi Ranger. I'm JohnBerry555, and this is my review of Star Wars Andor Season 2, Episode 7, 8, and 9. Episode 7, Messenger. Episode 8, Who Are You? And Episode 9, Welcome to the Rebellion. So we're going to talk about each individual episode, and then I'm going to talk about all three together, so stay tuned. Welcome to the Jedi Ranger. I'm JohnBerry555, and I'm continuing my reviews of Star Wars Andor Season 2 with Episode 7, Messenger. So, another year has passed, the Empire is tightening its grip on Gorman, but the Gorman front is also getting more bold in its opposition to the Empire. Not are they just doing peaceful stuff, they're doing more violent stuff, more attacks and that. The Empire is obviously playing up more the attack angle, because they're trying to make the Gormans look bad because of their agenda, because they want to strip mine the planet and they need to get the people out of the way. And they still somewhat care about public perception, so they're not just going to go in right away. The Senate is still around after all. We are reminded of that because Mon Mothma, she's going into the Senate for some kind of meeting, briefly speaks with the Gorman senator who thanks her for her courage in that and reminds her to keep herself safe. And I think, knowing what we know from Star Wars Rebels, we're getting to the point where Mon Mothma will take a stand where her only way to stay safe is to fully commit to the rebellion and run away from Coruscant, for lack of a better description. But other stuff is going on. For example, Dedra tells Cyril to pack his bags and leave. She knows the crackdown is coming, and you can tell, she is truly, I think, killing for Cyril. Whether it started as manipulation originally or not, I think she has developed actual feelings for him, and he clearly has actual feelings for her, but on her end, initially I was thinking mostly manipulation going on and putting up a front, but I'm thinking that is changing for her, and hence why, with she knowing the crackdown is coming, she's trying to get him out of the way so he will hopefully stay safe. That's at least how I interpret that scene. Meanwhile, Cassian and Bix, they're on Yavin. We get to see a little bit of the Yavin base. It's growing. We get to see where the people are actually sleeping and all that. Cassian and Bix seem to have a nice little hut in the jungle. Seems like a pretty pleasant life. Except for Cassian has a blaster burn that's not healing that well. And Bix takes him to a Force hero who definitely senses more in Cassian that he's like a special role in the rebellion in a sense. There's a lot of cryptic stuff going on, but definitely there's some interesting stuff there. And during all this too, Willman came back, so it seems like he separated from Saw and is working with Lucen again, because a year has passed. So Lucen is still around, and people are happy to be away from him. Both Bix and Vel are happy not to be taking orders from Lucen anymore. Seems like Cassian as well, but reconnecting with him, he's going to come back to Gorman for one probably final mission for Lucen. And that probably will be inciting the Imperials to do the Gorman massacre. I think it's going to be really interesting how it develops in the next two episodes. There's a lot more to discuss, so the comment section is down below. Star Wars Andor, Episode 8, Who Are You? Broke me. I've never felt such feelings after watching any work of fiction. I'm JohnBerry555, this is the Jedi Ranger, and we need to talk about that episode. This episode had something to say. It put us in the Gorman massacre. It didn't tell us about it, it put us in it. The closest I've ever felt to what I felt after this is when I watch history stuff, especially recreations of historic events, including tragedies. Band of Brothers, Why We Fight, is one of those examples. But with history, it's in the past. There's a sense of fait accompli about it. It's done. There's nothing you can do. You can only reflect on and learn from it. You can feel saddened by it. You can feel sorrow about it. But you don't often feel in it. And that's something I think a lot of people who do documentaries and that, and even historical dramatization, sometimes forget. They forget how to put you, the audience, in the event for feeling. Now, granted, documentaries are often trying to be objective, so they hope the events speak for themselves. But historical dramas, on the other hand, they're set in the past. They're set during a historical event, and they're supposed to get you to feel something. They're supposed to be a dramatization. They are supposed to take more artistic license in a documentary. But Tony Gilroy and the rest of the creative team behind Star Wars Andor did that for a piece of fiction. They put you in a piece of fiction the way I feel like a lot of historical dramatizations fail to do. Perhaps it's because, especially first time, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what characters are going to make it out alive or not. And they worked that into the story. They made you feel like you were there on Gorman with Cassian, with Cyril, with Wilman, with all the members of the Gorman Front. They made you feel there. They made you care about the characters. And it is so much better for that. Don't know if I'll ever be able to rewatch the episode, but they did such a superb job in the episode. They showed the Empire inciting a rebellion, inciting a riot to justify a crackdown, to justify oppression. But as we know from Ferris, as we know from Rebels, they will lose control of that situation. Tyrants, whenever they try to incite an incident to justify oppression, will lose control of the situation. Tyrants, respect the rule of law, respect constitutional order. That is how you truly stay in power, by not provoking the people. That is a very radical message to say, but that is the message that Star Wars Andor, Who Are You, are giving to us. Plus, they made me care about Cyril's mother, actually feel sympathy for her. How? It showed us she does love her son in an overbearing way, but deep down, and same thing with Dedra. She's, I think, actually grown fond of Cyril, and losing Cyril in the riot, I think will affect her. Now, will she double down? It's a different story. We gotta see that all in the next episode, but this episode had something to say. It made us feel something, and it accomplished that goal. There's more I can talk about. I could talk about each individual character, how stuff, but the parallel to Ferris is spot on. The people gather to the memorial, even though it's a trap. People recognized it was a trap, but they still did it anyhow because, yes, it may have been the tactically maybe not sound thing, but it was probably the morally right thing to take the stand in that moment. And as we know from other stories, this incident helped spark and galvanize the rebellion against the Empire and against Imperial tyranny as a whole. From a internal universe story, that stuff works perfectly. It feeds into it. You got the Gormans also trying to relay their message, what actually happened out to the world, so that way the Empire is not dictating the narrative. We know Mon Mothma will take a stand. She'll probably rely on those transmissions from Gorman. I had hoped Cassian would capture Cyril because there was a moment where Cyril was like overwhelmed and you might think like, he's saying, this is not what I stood up for. But seeing Cassian in the crowd, that brought him back to square one. He once again became that pre-Mormolana cop who was trying to capture a thief, a person, a murderer. He went back to square one. Any potential chance he had at redemption was gone. He regressed back to who he was way back in episode 1. And that's why Cyril has always been an antagonist, always been a villain. Villains and antagonists generally do not learn. They generally do not grow. They often will double down. They often will reject character growth. I'm interested in seeing how this event will change Dedra because she's clearly overwhelmed by this. She had grown fond of Cyril despite the fact I'm pretty sure the relationship began as manipulation, had very toxic on both sides. But it was kind of like they were toxic to each other and somehow that made it healthy for themselves and was starting to bring out the better part in each other. But Cyril regressed. Will Dedra regress? She's set up as a villain. Will she have an Agent Callus moment? I don't know. Remember, we got Lonnie too, who's we didn't see him at all in this episode because he's back on Coruscant, being Lucian's spy, I'm sure. He might see Dedra is now struggling and start poking at her, trying to, either get her to slip up or something or even defect. I could see that. There's a lot of interesting stuff because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. This episode has a lot of interesting stuff that can go forward, but the most important thing is it showed us the Gorman Massacre. It made us in the audience feel something. And that, I think, was deliberate. We saw the inciting incident that we needed from the big Mon Mothma moment coming in the next episode, and it made us, the audience, feel something and hopefully take something away from it. That's what I got to say. What do you have to say? The comment section is down below. Welcome to the Jedi Ranger. I'm JohnBerry555, and this is my review of Star Wars Andor Season 2, Episode 9, Welcome to the Rebellion. So, a lot happens in this episode, basically dealing with two parts: the political fallout from the Gorman Massacre and Mon Mothma's speech, and also Cassian and basically his role in the rebellion. Those are the two main parts, and the title is so fitting. Mon Mothma, she gives her speech. The speech that we knew was coming, the speech that we saw a brief clip of the Star Wars Rebels. Cassian helps her get out of the Senate. And good thing he was there, because there was an ISB plant in the team that was going to extract Mon Mothma from the Senate. I do think the other members would have definitely tried to stop the ISB plant, but having an extra person there definitely did help. And obviously, Cassian is not the one who brings Mothma to Yavin. We know from Star Wars Rebels that Gold Squadron and Phoenix Cell that do the bulk of that work. But it makes sense to spread out the thing, though. Cassian got back to Yavin with a lot less difficulty than Mon Mothma did. Perhaps Mon Mothma should have hitched the ride, but what happened in Star Wars Rebels is definitely probably a little bit better for propaganda. And actually, I do appreciate how they didn't repeat that, just alluded that that's how it's going to go. So I kind of wish they had made a mention to Phoenix Cell. Oh well, that's my only complaint about that. But, so Mon Mothma, she's now in the Wars of the Rebellion properly, but we probably won't see that until the last 3 episodes. But Cassian, he's tired. He's ready to basically retire from the rebellion, live a life with Bix. Of course, Bix sees that he's needed the rebellion, so she decides for them to choose the rebellion. So she hops outside on transport, probably to help another rebel base or another rebel cell somewhere. And so that way Cassian has to commit to the rebellion. That he, basically the choice is taken away from him, because based off of the experience with the Force Healer from the previous episode, Bix has determined that the rebellion needs Cassian, that once they win, once they defeat the Empire, then they can have their quiet life together. So, about that, we know what's going to happen in Rogue One. But this was, I think, really good follow-up. There's a lot of smaller things I can further discuss, but seeing basically a little bit of the particular injury, the ISB trying to stop Mon Mothma from her speech, but failing. Bail Organa getting things ready for Mon Mothma in the Senate, and you can tell they used a chain of allies to get Mon Mothma's speech going in a way that the Empire can't, get everyone else for. And then the Empire tries to get Mon Mothma, but she gets out, as I said earlier. There's more to discuss, so the comment section is down below. So now that we talked about each individual episode, let's take a look at the episodes as a whole, how they all fit together. So, Episode 7, Messenger, is supposed to be ramping up the tension for us, getting us reconnected with what's going on, getting us back in, knowing that things are coming to a head. Episode 8 is supposed to be the inciting incident, the incident that catches everyone's attention, and Episode 9 is supposed to be the fallout from said incident, which they do so superbly. They are feeding into each other, all build off of each other. Now, some character plots may be dropped for the sake of story. We don't need to see what happened to Dedra after the Gorman Massacre. That's not important to the story. Yes, we want to know, and we'll probably see the fallout from that on her end in the terms of the next 3 episodes. But in here, all we need to know from Episode 8 was that this was not it did not go the way she was expecting, mainly because of Cyril. So we know that. That's all we needed to know. But when it came to Welcome to the Rebellion, what mattered was seeing Mon Mothma take the stand and seeing her get to safety. That's all we needed to know. And because of Star Wars Rebels, we don't even need to see her get to Yavin. We know she'll get to Yavin. So we do not need to see that. We just need to be told that Cassian, or we are shown that Cassian gets her out of the Senate safely, and then we are told, and Gold Squadron, plus Phoenix Cell as well, will be, even though they're not mentioned directly, will be the ones that actually get her to Yavin. That's what we needed to see. And this does it well. Tony Gilroy, the actors, Dina Nuga, and everyone else involved with Star Wars Andor know how to tell a story, and they're doing a really, really, really good job at it and exceeding very well. They're also making a story that has not only something to say, but makes you feel stuff. I already addressed that when I talked about Episode 8, but no work of fiction has made me feel in the way that it had. Probably something to do with how well they just constructed the story that they were able to invoke those emotions in me. I'm sure I'm not the only one as well. And there's many small things, like I forgot to mention that I'm pretty sure we're going to get K2SO now, because at the end of the Gorman Massacre, Cassian captures thanks to a Gorman, captures and disables a KX droid, and at the end of Welcome to the Rebellion, they are reactivating, and he seems like quite a pleasant chap. I know many of us had the theory that perhaps K2SO has a bit of B2's programming, and that still would be nice, because I still want to know what happened to B2. Is he still on the farming plane? Is he safe? Tell me he is safe. But the point being is that this welcome to the rebellion. It's not just welcoming Mon Mothma into the rebellion, but it's welcoming Cassian into the rebellion proper, even though he's the one who gives that line to Mon Mothma. But Bix, by going on her own to probably serve the rebellion in a different fashion, away from Cassian, is what allows Cassian to stay in the rebellion and truly become a part of the rebellion in a way he wasn't before. They've done a great job with all this. They've weaved the story fantastically, and I really can't wait to see where the next episodes go. Let's keep the discussion going on in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest content. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always.